Good morning, everybody. It's Positive Tuesday today, March 28th, 2023. Sorry, already having some audio issues. For Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden, and of course you're watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With nearly 20 years, actually now it would be 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business has provided quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. Like Fitzy and I, they believe that it's the little things that make a big difference. So give them a call today. The number's right there on the screen, 715-520-2271. We are streaming this week's show on our DrydenWire Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So however you may be watching, welcome and thank you for joining us. Fitzy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful. It's sunny outside.
It is. It was very nice yesterday. It's going to get a little cooler, but I don't want to wreck it for Dirk. He'll have the weather in a little bit. So, yeah, lots to talk about. We did police work in Barron County, so we got all kinds of
It's
stuff.
about time. I'm just saying. It's about to. Yeah, we do have a lot to get to, including we had an article, signature bond order for man facing charges of child sexual assault. You just had a press release, I think it was just yesterday, that 34 people cited referred to prime for life class for underage drinking following parking complaint. Wow, a lot to unpack there. And, of course, one of our main topics after that is going to be about the recent swatting calls. And good morning, Amanda. So, but obviously, as always, we start with, hey, man, how's it going? How's your weekend?
It was, you know what? Didn't do much this weekend again. Just relaxed. Did some outside stuff because it was so nice out. The snow's melting. We're not too far away from seeing green grass, I think. So it seems like it was going to take a while to all melt, but it's going to get there really quick, I think, as we get to some warmer weather. So, yeah, we had a great event at the library last Thursday night, the largest event in the Rice Lake Library history.
What?
277 people at our bingo night. It was awesome. Had a blast. It was so cool. I mean, I can't tell you how great it was. Kids were sharing seats with each other, so everybody had a seat, and they were sharing bingo cards, and it was really a community event. It was so cool, so special.
You love that stuff, man.
I love that stuff. I mean, more than you'll know. I mean, it was just the greatest night, and the library staff they were out the door. There was people parked everywhere. Looked like a huge party. It was a huge party. I know people left because the line was so long to get in the building. I mean, it was crazy. It was just crazy. So we packed them in there. They shared spaces. They sat on the floor. We had some pizza, Domino's. We ran out of pizzas. Domino's got us 10 more pizzas instantly. It was great. It was awesome. So.
By the way, I saw Shani Anderson. Good morning. We really need to have her back on to talk about this cash bail stuff. We really should. I know we had her on like a year ago and to really talk about bail and when people have signature bonds and where does that money go. And then we ended up talking the whole time and never really getting to that topic. Well, that was the whole point of her being on. We never even really got.
We kind of did that one.
Yeah, we kind of just kind of ramble on a lot. So, I think I just put that up. I'm sorry. Good morning, Renee. So it was great. So I'd worked through all last weekend, and Brian Cole didn't have a thing on Sunday, and I'm like, it's been a couple weeks. This is at a day. I'm taking the weekend off. So I did. I did. Took the weekend off. Spent time with my family.
There you go.
Watched a lot of sports.
It did. We watched a lot of sports. We text back and forth on some games, and
that girl's name from Iowa? Is it Caitlin Clark? Is that her name?
Clark. Yeah.
Holy buckets.
Yeah.
She's unreal.
How about this? We're talking about Division I, but Division II basketball, UMD girls are in Division II championship this week. 2 Rice Lake girls on that team.
What?
And Bryn Olson. My daughter played with both of them. I mean, yeah. Brooke Olson, the number 1 girl in Division II college basketball, women's college basketball Division II. So UMD girls going far here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, some pretty great games. I mean, you look at the men's Final Four. I mean, a 9 seed, a 5 seed, a 5 seed, and a 6 seed, or something like that.
I think it's 4. UConn. I think it's the highest one, which seemed to be the favorite at this point. Not just because of the ranking, but
But everybody for the 9. You know that Florida State, or not Florida State, but FAS or whatever.
FAU.
FAU, yeah.
Florida. Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah, so it was Wonderful weekend of sport. It's so good. And baseball starts this Thursday. Can't wait for that. I think opening day is this Thursday. So, yeah, good times. Hopefully everyone else had a great weekend because, it wasn't snowing. It wasn't horrible. It was sunny. It was gorgeous. It was just a great weekend. Any shout-outs? Because then we have a lot to get to, but any shout-outs or announcements?
No, I'm good. I shouted out the library and the staff.
That's right. You already did that.
That's right.
Well, we should give a shout-out to Pete Johnson. He was on last week. He was what a treat. I love that dude. The former Polk County Sheriff turned attorney. What a great guy. And then and of course Dan Kelly, he was on our show last Thursday for the third time. And of course every time, it's not just Republican, but it's a little conspicuous when his opponent hasn't asked to come on. So of course we get the normal, well, if you really want to be fair, you should have. I'm like, well, how many times are we got to say it? We don't ask political candidates to come on. They got to ask us. And didn't ask us. Their campaign. So either they don't know we exist or they don't and they don't want to. Regardless, we're not going to ask. Oh, shoot. Speaking of, so Twitter. Twitter's a whole other place, man.
Yeah, we can go down a deep hole there.
Oh, my goodness. So after the show, Dan Kelly, the campaign, because I don't think it was Dan Kelly. I'm pretty sure he doesn't I don't think Dan Kelly's on Twitter. But his campaign is, and they had shared our show. So how Twitter works, for people who are unfamiliar, when someone tags someone else, every reply so it was gets to me as well. So I see all the replies. And it's either half, we love Dan Kelly, or half, we hate Dan Kelly. But none of it's against me, right? It's just they are the ones that shared it, except one.
One was about you.
There was one. And I took a screenshot of it. This is what it said from a Peppy Pepin.
Oh.
Replying to Justice Dan Kelly and DrydenWire. Dryden is anti-women. Probably can't even get a first date.
Your wife doesn't want you to really have a first date, so I think we're okay.
Oh, that's great. Oh, yeah, Drusha, of course, was having fun with it all week when I showed her that. And she's like, and again, could you explain to me why you hate women so much? I'm like, stop it, honey.
Just get in the kitchen, clean, and cook.
I'm anti-women. Can't even get a first date, so... I love Twitter. I love it.
I love when people hide behind, just say your name.
Yeah, no kidding. What a mess. Oh, all right. Well, with that being said, signature bond order for man facing charges of child sexual assault. We want to talk about your press release. 34 people were cited for pretty much underage drinking and swatting calls. A lot to get to. We'll get to that right after this. After a message from Spooner Health, we'll be back in 15 seconds.
Satisfaction surveys and in conversations with patients, they appreciate the fact that staff got to know them. Staff really took their preferences into account, and they just feel grateful that they are being cared for as a person.
To learn more about our services, visit spoonerhealth.com.
All right. So which one do you want to start with? Our article or your press release from yesterday?
Well, we can start with your article because that jumps into the bail bonds and.
Okay.
I read your article. It's not our case. I think it was a Racing PD case. But,
correct. Yeah. So I wrote down a few. So that was the headline: that signature bond order for man facing charges of child sexual assault. Here's just for people who didn't see it. It was an insider story. Some highlights here: a Brandon Cruz had allegedly sexually assaulted a child under the age of 16. Provided alcohol and money to the child. There's some other, we left out a lot of the details as we usually do when it comes to child stuff, but there's also stuff I just don't want to say in the air. Carews apparently admitted, according to the criminal complaint, to having sexual intercourse with the child victim twice. They had discussions about possible, what do we do if pregnant? Just kind of a weird thing. And eventually he was charged with 2 counts of felony sexual assault of a child under age 16, 1 count of felony attempt sexual assault of a child under 16, and 2 counts of Class I felony exposing genitals to a child. And the Honorable Maureen Boyle ordered a $10,000 signature bond with conditions that he has no contact with the child victim of the sexual assaults. This does tie into a week from today, the election, also that cash bail thing that's on there. I wanted to get your thoughts, but I wanted to share just one thing first. When I see signature bond, I don't care if it's $10,000. I don't care if it's $100. I don't care if it's $1 million. All I see is signature bond. Right. Now, maybe I should. Is there really that much of a difference? And maybe there is, but I don't, from just an outside person looking in, I don't see a difference. And I don't like signature bonds for someone who, according to the criminal complaint, admitted to this. I don't like that at all. We're all right, just sign a piece of paper and get out of here. Your thoughts?
You're exactly right. The piece of paper could have sent $100 million signature bond. He's still getting out of jail 10 minutes after he signs that. There isn't, I mean, if he violates, he'd have to come up with $100 million. But
Right.
But a signature bond is just that. Your signature says, and if you violate it, and again, I know of no cases, and I'm sure there's been some. I'm just saying I know of no cases that they've signed a signature bond, had to pay cash the next time, and we kept it. That's the problem with the system. That is exactly the problem. And the judge may have wanted to keep him in jail, couldn't under the law. So no fault to the judge because that's the law. If he's always came to court, this is his first time in trouble, he promises, they can't take the severity of the crime into effect. And that's why we need to change this next week. Excuse me. We need to check yes on those bail bonds questions. That gives the judge another tool in the tool belt. It doesn't make them. It's not going to be disappropriate to poor people or people of color or whatever it is, in my opinion. I'm sure there's some arguments out there that it will, because all it does is give the judge a tool to keep them in jail or to issue a cash bond. The cash bond can be $1, but it can be cash bond.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to come up with that. There isn't a set amount. The judge can rule from $1 to $100,000 to $1 million if they want. Based on the severity of the crime, they can take that into account. That's
Sure.
what we're talking about next week. That's why I agree 100% with you. I don't like this. I don't like signature bonds. I think we need to have a little bit more bite behind the bark.
And that maybe, well, I don't know if Shani could actually speak to that if she comes on, but I just don't really understand why we even have signature bonds. I'm sure there's a reason. I guess I've never actually done a deep dive on that, like the difference. I mean, I know the difference between a cash and a signature bond, but I don't know. I'm sure there's whatever. We need to go and vote yes, like you said, on all those. Like, I don't even care if you don't vote for Supreme Court, which you probably should, but at least go and vote for this one. Like, no kidding. That's next week from today. Is there an account for the potential? Is there an account for the potential of re-offending?
Well, I think after April 4th, there will be, yes. I think that is there. There always is that fear I can justify keeping someone in jail if I arrest you for disorderly conduct tonight, and on the way to the jail, you say, when I get out, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to beat that bartender up again. Well, now I can keep you in jail until the judge sees you. And so there is some, but in this case, no, he's been told to stay away. Now, if he reoffends and he violates the bond, the judge can increase it. I've seen people get arrested for a $500 cash bond, and the next time they get a $250 cash bond. I'm like, how can it go down? I just don't. What? In every judge and every story. So yeah, there it is. Dave Wilson, support that. Like you said, don't go vote for Supreme Court. You don't know.
Yeah, if you don't have to, that's fine. That's your business.
Yeah, you can do that.
But show up for this one, will you? Like, no kidding. We have to do this. The
Supreme Court race got way over politicized. I don't like it. I'm frustrated with it. It's way too politicized. We spent way too much money on that, but we've always agreed we spent too much money on elections.
100%. So the next thing is you had a press release yesterday, and like one of the rare times I call you like work-related questions, because usually when you and I are texting, it's about sports and stuff like that. So I had to call. I'm like, okay, am I reading this correctly? Because sometimes, let's face it, there's an error from time to time. Like even in that headline when I put something about referred. Actually, it was this headline. I spelled referred wrong. I forgot it was 2 R's, not one. It's easy to make these mistakes. So I call him like, am I understanding this correctly? 34? Or is it a 3 or a 4? It can't be 34. And kind of find out it was. So our headline was 34 people cited, referred to Prime for Life class, which we should find out what that is, for underage drinking following a parking complaint. For people who didn't see that, what happened?
So on Saturday night, we got a complaint that a person couldn't get down the road to get to their house because there was too many cars parked on the road. So we went and investigated it, found a large party. In the course of about 3 hours, that tied up our deputies for about 3 hours. They were rounded up about 34 people. I think it was actually 36 people because there were some second offenders in there. But basically what happened is we had 30, there was way more than 34 people there. There's some were over 21, and some weren't drinking and were under 21 and weren't drinking. There was a large party that we got to go to.
we got to go to.
Yeah,
take a shot to them and stuff. Yeah, so I'm looking at it now because I didn't print out. 34 people, ages 17 to 20. So you guys have received a parking complaint. Yep. So, this was in Cumberland.
Yep, north of
But
Cumberland.
by the way, Cumberland, it's not that big of a town. You get 34 cars, or maybe people rode together. You get a whole bunch of cars around. I'm just saying, criminals, be smarter. Well, yeah, and they're not criminals. They did something that was, I guess, technically a crime, but I don't know if I'd put them into the category of criminals. But, in town, we got how many cars? What? But, yep, ages 17 to 20 were cited. 3 people were cited for underage drinking second offense, and 1 person citing for hosting, permitting underage alcohol. The one that was cited, is this, you have talked about before about something that you say, like hosting...
Parents who host and those who host lose the most.
That's the one. So what is the how does this work now? You get 34 17 to 20-year-olds. I went I'm ready to, as soon as we're finished, I'll be posting all of our booking reports. Obviously, I'm not going to probably see 34 people in there because that would be ridiculous to haul all of them in just for,
You didn't book anybody. Everybody was released.
So you just, when you're there, for people who don't know, because I don't know, when you're there, it's like, okay, everyone just line up. What's your name? Okay, here's your ticket. All right, next, line up, and here's your ticket. How does that work?
Basically, it becomes an assembly line of some degree. What we have is an option through the Restorative Justice Program that are now fall under the Sheriff's Department and DHS. DHS Director Frolic and I took over the Restorative Justice, and there was some controversy about that. We were going to let the program just fail and everything like that. In fact, we got an email today about how we've been doing a good job keeping it up, and we're going to move one port to a nonprofit. So anyway, doesn't worry. For Prime for Life is an alcohol class. Give everybody a chance. Just like first offense OWI is just a ticket. It's a reminder. You made a mistake, but do better next time. And so underage drinking, we have basically, hey, we understand kids make mistakes. They don't always make good choices. Let's give them a class. So basically 34 kids are going to attend a class. It's a 8-hour class over 2 nights. So it's 4 hours one night, 4 hours the next night. They'll have to attend a class taught by 2 of our deputies. And it goes through the dangers of underage alcohol, why alcohol is a problem, why we do what we do in our jobs, why we have to enforce the law. I know some people were like, just leave them alone. They're 20 years old, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's not the law.
Right. It's not the, yeah.
So 34 of them got a letter that says basically show up, or will be getting a letter, show up at whatever time of the date the class, pass the class, you don't get a ticket. You don't lose your license, nothing. Doesn't even go on your record. It never existed. We have a record of it here, so if you get caught again, you don't get that option.
Sure.
Now, if you've already been through the class or you have a first offense on your record, you can't take the class. It's a first offense, 1 strike only class. So 3 of them had prior alcohol offenses, so they got a second offense. And then the hosting person right now only has 1 citation. We are working on, this case is still active and going on because we're doing what we call a source investigation. I want to know where the beer came from. There's more hosting tickets that can be issued. Some other things that are in play here that I can't talk about right now because it's still active. But
kids will make dumb choices. Not mistakes. Right. They're choices, but they're dumb. If you want to call them mistakes, that's fine. I usually call them choices because it is. But we kind of expect that, right? It's not a condoning it, the behaviors. But, they're kids. We did dumb things when not you. You were born, at the age of 40 and a grown-up and always make the right choices. But yeah, it's the adults that, okay, what? So I guess it would be different, and I'm sure you can't talk about it now, but just in a generalization, if like the mom and dad of this house or whomever is the homeowner, they were gone on vacation for a few days and the kids are all like, hey, we're going to have a party. I kind of get that. But if it's, okay, no, you guys can use the house, that's wildly different. Now we're talking about adult that is, so that's a whole other thing. But again, I'm sure you can't talk about that stuff. But prime for
I don't think the parent was involved in this. I don't believe so. I believe the parent was out of town, and that exactly.
And that's usually when it happens, right? That's what that's what other people did.
I didn't even think it was a home. I think it was a cabin. So,
Sure.
So there's a couple things in play there, but
Okay.
yeah. So
That Prime
that
for
was
Life class, how long has that been around?
a few years. Yeah, we've been doing that quite a while.
And are you getting any? Because we're always going to get some negative feedback. When I'm assuming you put this on your Facebook page as well. Have you been getting any complaints? I mean, 34 kids. That's 34 kids' parents. That you could be having, as many as 68 people contacting you saying, "How dare you?" So, from the family aspect, and do you usually get positive feedback like, "Hey, you're doing your job. It is what it is. Good lesson for them to learn," or is there some going, "Dude, just go bust marijuana people because that's the real, crime."
There's some of those people that completely support law enforcement, and they don't. There's a guy right now that's made some comments over the last couple of weeks and a few posts that I'm kind of tired of, but I've left it alone. I could talk about how we've arrested his son. We could make some comments. I won't. But over the last few weeks, he's been poking the bear, and I've let it go.
That's not smart.
Exactly. And he's mad because of an incident that happened multiple years ago. He's still mad about it. We did our job that time too. I'm not worried about it. But yeah.
Right.
But
in terms of the public, when you put this out, is it also a mostly positive, or at the very least, and it is what it is? Is this because, again, anytime we talk about marijuana, it's like, oh, focus on the real crimes like meth and fentanyl, which, that stuff is worse. We totally get it. But, it's still illegal, so we have to. If you have meth or marijuana in your car and pull you over, we got to give you a ticket. I mean, because that's how it works. So did you get any of that where it's just, what are you doing? Go focus on, crimes.
Somebody said this is I'm a revenue generating sheriff. Well, I can tell you that 34 tickets, we could have written 34 $300 and some tickets, and we would have got revenue from them. This is going to cost the kid, if they go to the class, it costs them $0, and they get to keep their driver's license. Now, what parent isn't say, hey, I don't have to spend $350, and I don't have to drive my kid around for 3 months while the judge takes away his driver's license, and then pay $50 for a reinstatement fee? So I'm saving families. I'm not. Our county, based on what we say. It's not me, but I'm the sheriff. I get to make those rules too. We could say no to this program and say, you know what, we're not going to do it. We're not going to waste our deputies' time. I'm investing 2 deputies' times for 8 hours each to do this class. So they're doing an on-duty time. There'll be some overtime cost to it. So it probably will cost me money, but in the long run, I think it's better.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask to kind of put a bow on this. Wasn't like old school stuff where it's, bunch of kids underage drinking and, the local cops. It's, come on, guys. Let's call your parents, get them to come pick you up. You're going to get more trouble from your parents than you will from us. Just disperse. We'll get you home safely. No one's getting tickets. Why did that ever cross your mind? Was it a situation where it's, well, do we really need to go through all of this stuff? Or just, call your parents. Let's get you home.
Liability in today's world, if one of those kids gets hurt or something like that, no way. Not in today's world. You can't do it in today's world anymore. So no, that's changes. So if you're mature enough to party, then you're mature enough to have your name posted on social media. Yeah, we didn't post all the names. We could. I didn't. I chose not to.
I don't need. Honestly, I'm perfectly fine with you not. To be honest,
I mean, I didn't even post where the party was at. Now, maybe that changes down the road, but because that's a little bit bigger fine, we can cite for technically $500 per kid that's there. Now, the DA's office is going to do that. Yeah.
So here's a question for Renee. What would happen on a second offense if that doesn't work? Yeah, so you did say that there was 3 people cited for second offense. Do they get so they don't get to go to Prime for Life class?
They get a ticket, and they're probably going to lose their driver's license. So it's more, you lose your driver's license for longer on a second offense, you get a bigger fine as every fine goes up.
Yeah, and by the way, we have a question here from Brian on our next topic here, which we'll get to in just a minute. But this is the fear over drinking parties only happen when a carload of kids crash and get killed or kills someone else.
He's 100% right.
You know, I didn't think about that too. It's not just where they were, is were they all spending the night there? Which I don't know. But you have to assume that at least a couple of cars are going to leave. And what would happen then?
And what did we prevent from happening? Yeah,
right. I didn't think about that. Good point, Ryan.
I mean, he's exactly right. I take the heat for this, and some people think it's revenue generating, it's wasting time. But what did we prevent from happening? We've talked about prevention 100 times on this show again. You can't measure prevention. But yeah, I've been to those crashes. I'm not going to those crashes again. I'm not going to tell another parent that their 18 or 16-year-old kid was killed. Drinking and driving or getting hit by a drunk driver. That's why alcohol, it's not bad. We just got to be smart. Have the exit strategy. It's amazing what you can do if you just have a plan and how safe you are.
Okay, I do have one more question here because we had to get to the swatting thing, but was there at any point when you were doing this press release that you're going, maybe I don't? Any doubts at all? Or any second questioning yourself going, we did this and it was needed to be done. You've covered that. But any thoughts of, I don't know, maybe I don't do this one?
No, I don't think it ever crossed my mind. It's how do I write this so that I can get a message with it. It's not the fact that we caught 34 people. I'm not proud of that. I'm happy with our guys are doing their job and gals are doing their job. I'm not proud of the fact we caught 34 people. I'm like, hey, we got a big meth bust.
This isn't exactly, like a fentanyl bust or something. It's unfortunate that you had to do this.
Right. But I also, as I write most of my press releases, and that's just me. If you don't like it, run for sheriff, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
Pound sand.
Right. I always try to put a message with it. Like parents who host, it's prom, it's graduation season. We want our kids to have the best prom, the best graduation season. We don't need a crash on graduation night, or we don't need everybody crying at my kid graduates this year. I don't need some accident to happen and he has his graduation party and everybody's sad because Billy passed away in a car crash.
Yeah, you can't. You don't want a graduation with an in memoriam section, right? What? Yeah, and you're right. So I'm going back to your article, and it says with prom, and this is literally in your press release, with prom and graduation season coming up, this is a good reminder to talk to your kids about the dangers of alcohol. With no serious injuries, while no serious injuries took place, an ambulance was called to the scene for a couple of cases of mild hypothermia from people that fled from the scene but were later returned. We have seen cases like this end in tragedy. Please do your part in keeping our kids safe. Talk to them about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. If you hear something reported, and never provide alcohol to anyone under the age of 21. Together, we can keep our kids safe. You're right. I mean, it's a good reminder.
We don't want prom and graduation season wrecked. It might not be our kid, but it might be our kid's best friend. You know, I'm very close with Emma's and Jace's friends. I mean, they mean the world to me. I talk about that when I go into the schools. I don't want nothing bad to happen to them. Maybe that's because of the role I'm in, but I don't want nothing bad to happen to them.
But we're all community, and they're all our kids. What we saw that in the Jamie Kloss case, or when those other kids they had died. It doesn't matter if they're your kids or if you know the parents or if you know of them. They're our kids. It takes a village, and we are our. I'm sorry, I'm going off on it, but they're all our kids.
Right. But prom and graduation is around the corner, and we need to do better. We've got to make sure our kids are safe, and that it takes a community to do that. And it takes a community to make our schools safer, and that's our next topic.
Yeah, let's get to that right now. Swatting. So there was a last week. I don't remember what day. Wednesday maybe.
Yep.
Last week, last week there was some swatting calls that happened around our area. I think Wausau, I think maybe Ashland. I can't remember, somewhere. Yeah. But then locally there was one in this Spooner High School. And then around the same time was down in your area at the Rice Lake Middle School, if I recall.
Correct.
So first, for people who don't know, what is a swatting call? And then let's get into just yours, because you can't obviously speak regarding the Spooner situation. But what did you guys then do, and why did you do it the way that you did it? But first, for people who don't know, what is a swatting call?
It's a criminal harassment tactic, as what we call it, basically to get us to respond to something that's not there. It's a swatting call. It's a fake call. I'm calling. We've had a fake SWAT call in Ladysmith with our SWAT team where someone says, hey, so-and-so has got a gun. He's abducted a girl, or he's took his girlfriend hostage. And I don't remember the exact details of it. It was a few years ago in Ladysmith. We busted our SWAT team over there and got there and called the guy, and he was playing video games. And somebody was mad online and called the fake call in because they were mad at him online. I don't know why. It's probably from a different country. We can't trace the call. The FBI is looking at it. But this person interacted. This wasn't a mobile call. This was a person that was on the other line, had his voice covered, had a dialect, a different dialect from a different country. But he said he was in a bathroom. He was breathing heavy, sounded scared, said somebody who had been shot and there was a shooter in the building, and gave some details and answered questions and said, I got to be quiet. And it went on and on and on for.
So that seems legit.
Yeah. But by his dialect, you could probably tell it was fake, but I can't take that chance.
No.
Right? You can't take it. I mean, if it was a robocall, like some of them had been, there's an active shooter at the middle school, click. Or, at the high school, or whatever school, and then you click. Well, that's totally different. You can tell by a robocall voice, you can tell. But this was not a robocall. This was an interactive person in the other line. It happened at multiple
So that
schools.
call goes to where? That call goes to the school?
Went to the dispatch center.
Oh, okay, so the call doesn't go to the school.
Some of them have in the past. This one went into our dispatch center. Our
Okay.
dispatch center received
And I'm
that
assuming
call.
there's lots of training on this stuff for your dispatch,
Well, every
how to
call-
handle these things, but they don't happen very often. So that's gonna have to be, you kind of have to figure this out as you're going.
So we called the school, had them initiate a lockdown, called the Rice Lake PD, sent them up there. I can tell you the staff at the Rice Lake Middle School did a phenomenal job. I know some people don't like our response. I know there was too much. It was a fake call. We should have vetted it before we.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you mean? How not? All right. So I'm not just trying to be like, yeah, you're right because you're my friend, and anyone that says anything. How in the world could you possibly have a problem? Did they offer any constructive advice? And next time you get one of these, you should do this.
Call the school, and they would know if a gunshot went off in the building. And that's if his secretary answers. She's not dealing with a student. She didn't walk away to get her a pop out of the pop machine. These schools aren't staffed by the phone just rings and somebody picks it up every second of the day.
Right.
They're dealing with students. There might be a crisis.
And let's say there was somebody that was actually there. They probably would be detained, or they could have a gun to their head and told them to say, no, nothing's wrong. So no, you can't take that chance.
Right. It's 100 different scenarios happen here. And all I can tell you is that Rice Lake School and those kids did an unbelievable job. I mean, they were locked down, had stuff stacked in front of the doors, were sitting quietly in the corner. It was unbelievable, great response. And the law enforcement response was fabulous from Rice Lake PD, the Sheriff's Department, the State Patrol. The Barron chief was standing in my office when the call came in. He jumped in our squads with us and went with us. We were having a meeting here when the call came in. We all rushed out the door. I mean, the response was great. Normally we get called off beforehand. I did not call the SWAT team. As we pulled into the parking lot, I was dialing the number, to say,
activate. Sure.
We get SWAT coming, and we haven't got called off yet. And then the Rice Lake School cop called in and said, we've checked the school. There's no threat. We need to do a secondary sweep. When we arrived, we did the secondary sweep with them to make sure we didn't miss anything. And then we unlocked and talked to all the kids in all the classrooms saying it was a fake call. It wasn't made from the Rice Lake area. It was made from outside the area. At that time, we learned, as we pulled into the school, we learned that Superior had gotten one of these prior to us. So we didn't know that information. And then after us was Wausau and Chippewa Falls and Ladysmith and somewhere else. And they just basically went down the state and dialed numbers to the non-emergency numbers to the police departments or sheriff's departments and said, there's a shooter. It was a very similar call. I haven't listened to them all. But I can tell you, our schools are prepared for this. We're never prepared for what happened in Tennessee yesterday. I mean, there's no question. There was a school shooting that same day that this happened in Denver. There was a school shooting yesterday.
Right.
I don't have an answer for school shootings. I don't.
Yeah, and actually, so it was what was on your mind when you were? I want to a couple things, but Brian, had a question. So we put this on yesterday. So on our Facebook page. So grateful. The recent swatting incident was not an active shooter, but once again today, so this would be yesterday, there was a mass shooting at elementary school in Nashville, 7 killed. I think this morning it was 3 kids, 3 adults, and then the 7th would be the shooter, if I recall. Can you speak to the unwillingness of our northern Wisconsin gun culture and elected legislators to even have a conversation about tangible measures such as red flag laws and background checks on all gun sales that other states have implemented with proven success? So if you don't mind, Fitzy, I think because obviously you can't speak to why elected legislators unless you happen to know any of that information, because you're not an elected legislator. But would you mind talking a little bit about red flag laws and background checks? Is that something you think would have, specifically regarding, maybe not specifically, but kind of regarding swatting incidents, which is kind of the overarching question that has to be asked is, why does this stuff happen? So going to what Brian had said, though, is there anything in there that you can kind of reply to or kind of share your thoughts on?
He's right. It's kind of like the Supreme Court race. There's just a split down the middle of people that don't want it to go to the extreme of taking every gun off my wall at my house, which is never going to happen. We're not going to take guns away from people, regular guns from regular people. Now, if you're a red flag law, which means maybe you have some mental health illness, or you have a prior conviction, or you have something in your background that may trigger something that maybe you shouldn't have a gun, we should probably have those conversations. But I think in yesterday's, and I know very brief, not much about yesterday's Nashville shooting. I mean, that person was a regular person, had no history in her background that I know of as of today, and legally obtained a gun and then went into and used them. So I don't know that any of those laws would have helped in yesterday's Nashville thing. Then we get into large capacity guns and automatic weapons and then all of that. And so it's a struggle. And I think it comes down to the same thing as gun control and abortion and all of those topics that our Supreme Court have to rule on to make it a law.
Yeah.
And do we need to have better conversations? Yes. I don't know. I've talked with Randy Drost. He's a personal friend of mine besides being the superintendent of where my kids go to school and have gone to school. The Rice Lake School District means the world to me. I don't have a good answer for him. I wish I did. And I know he's struggling the same way that I struggle because we talk about it on the phone. And if he knew how to keep our schools exactly safe, he would do it tomorrow. There's a ton of ideas out there, arming teachers, banning assault weapons, arming person at doors. But how many doors are at a school and how many armed people do we got to have? And there's 100 different solutions, but they all cost money. But maybe that's the answer. Maybe we put a school cop in every school, And
you know what I think the answer is? They all need Jesus in their lives. Just saying. But that's a whole other thing. But mental health is a big thing, which seems to cause a lot because going to what Brian's comment or question kind of was, and on that note, a lot of those things are feel-good things. And I do think, without knowing for sure, you know what? Romaine Quinn's going to be on the show Thursday for his monthly chat. We'll bring it up to him. But a lot of that stuff is, and you and I have talked about it, if there's some of this stuff, there's a school shooting, it's a great time to talk about, gun control. I'm totally fine with that. Me, I don't own guns. I don't like guns. But at the same time, Second Amendment, all that stuff.
Right.
But if we have like a limit magazines from, 100 down to is that really going to stop any school shootings? No. So a lot of the things that have been presented as gun control options, it feels good, like we want to do something. And I think that's what they were really trying to capitalize on, is that we all, we were talking earlier, that we're a community, they're all our kids. We don't want our kids hurt. Are you kidding? But I think most of the things that are brought up really aren't going to actually stop anything. There's that state rifle thing that they legislators have brought up. Just kind of a feel-good thing. It's a not a bolt action. It's a revolver, excuse me, like a hunting rifle or something. And there was an editor in one of the papers in our area, and he wrote a story last week. It was just great. That was, aking this to school shootings, and now we're going to have like a school shooting type gun thing. And this is not, nobody dies from this gun. What? And Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So a lot of this stuff is a feel-good thing. And I think that is what we're all looking for. Like, we'll all get on board with, if you can somehow show that if we do this, it's going to reduce shootings,
Right.
then yeah, we'll do it. But most of these things don't really pan out. Now, the red flag laws, there's goods to that, and I think there's some serious issues with it at the same time. So it's not one of those, both sides are going, oh, obviously, we have to get this done. And then, like you already mentioned, then the next thing you know is turned political. Right. And that's when everything just, And
everybody takes it to the extreme.
Yeah, exactly. It's, no, we're
bullet in their gun, and they have to keep it in their shirt pocket. I mean, nobody wants that either side.
No.
But it's politicized. It's stupid. Brian's right. It's 100% that they can't sit down and talk about it. Someday they're going to have to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and those kids. That's going back to, I'm sorry, I'm just going through back to some of the previous comments, but I think that was referring to, what if you didn't, go there? Can you imagine the trauma experienced by those kids? By the way, what does happen with those kids? How does this work now going through, this isn't a training drill.
Right.
As far as the school knew, this was happening, right? We're preparing for this, and we're going there, or at least that's what, when you guys called and said, lock it down, so everyone's going, I don't know what's going on. Adults are adults, but they're kids, middle school kids, dude.
Right. There's the only solution I can come up with and is to put an armed guard at the front door of the middle school, an armed door at the front door of the elementary school, and he sits there all day and waits for the school shooter. It's the only option out there. Now, yeah. Florida has an interesting thing where they're trying to do this after their school shooting at Marjorie or whatever that one was. I can't remember the name of the school, but I think they might be onto something, but it costs money, and it costs basically a guy or a gal sitting at the front door of the school, and he's trained by law enforcement, and his job is to do nothing else but sit there and watch for a school shooter. And
he has a gun. So again, this is one of those things where you could look at one side and you look at the other. Playing a little devil's advocate here, I like that idea of it, but here's what I don't like. We're trying to keep guns out of schools. Now we're literally bringing a gun into school. Now, granted, it's with a trained officer, but how hard would it be? And I don't really know. Maybe the officer becomes complacent unless they're on like a schedule where, it's every 2 weeks, then it's a different person. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but they're complacent. And now it's like, we don't have to bring a gun to school. There's already a gun in school. All we got to do is take down that person. Now we got a gun. So I don't like that either, but maybe that is the best answer.
I don't know. I think if I remember right, how was it, Red Lake, Minnesota, or one of the school shootings had one, and they shot. That's the first guy they planned on shooting. I mean,
I wouldn't want that job.
And so, I don't know. I mean, Brian's right. He has a comment there about gun control measures or minimize the impact.
Sorry, I had the wrong one up here. I think this was Shasta, my kid's birthday. So some dirtbag did this and sent my kid into a locked. Oh, well, happy belated birthday to your son.
Yeah, a daughter. She has a daughter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
where was the one? Who?
Right. Brian put the gun control measures are minimize the impact, and he's right. He's 100% right. I mean, Brian, maybe you should run for something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's
your campaign.
Minimize the impact. Yeah. Oh, Amanda, look at that.
And that's the idea. I mean, I think somewhat behind the Florida law, they got to be trained. And so, but I think there are people that want to stand guard at your school, but everybody does it the week after, the 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after. Yep. But then it was like, oh, nothing, how do we predict the day? You've got to do it every day, all day if you're going to do it. So, and they failed. So, but I don't know.
Oh, Heather, my son had no response. He seemed to not even know what was going on. He was in the art room. Watch everyone roll up. Those Chinese oh my goodness! It's the man. I'm getting emotional just thinking about saying these words. You don't mess with our kids.
The Rice Lake School did an unbelievable job. The teachers had fun with the kids. They read books or played a game while they were sitting in the corner. But they did everything they were supposed to do. It was a good training. It was great. Yeah. And the principal, Mr. Tomish and Mrs. Leaf, they did an unbelievable job. I mean, yeah. They were amazing. Every staff member in that school was amazing. I mean, it was just exactly what we wanted to happen. if it was a real thing, it was fake. We've got some ideas on how to try to limit the impact, but we can't delay the response. I'm never going to delay a response because how it makes somebody feel. I can't do that. That's not my job. It's not my role. My job is a response. We're going to work on some better communication with the school if possible. But again, if there's an actual thing and no one answers, we got to keep rolling. And so we're going to do some different things. So
yeah, Adam says, how about we protect our schools and kids as much or more than we do casinos, banks, sporting venues, and all the places that have security, armed guards, metal detectors. We don't take protecting our kids seriously.
He got an exact point. The Social Security office in Rice Lakes has got an armed guard at it all day, every day. So, I mean, so our federal buildings have all of that.
Adam's right. Yep, 100% right.
So, yeah.
Kid, man, that just gets me.
Right.
I mean, again, the reasoning behind this stuff. So I'm assuming, not being a cop, but knowing you and most of the people I know are cops, and my family has been, law enforcement forever. If it was an isolated incident, my first thought would be, if you found out that it was fake, would be, are they trying to, like I've seen movies too, right? Like testing our response time kind of a thing. Right. So that had to have gone through your mind, right? But then when you find out that this was at a whole bunch of other schools, does that that kind of rules it out, because why would they be looking for response times for all these schools in our area? That seems like probably not the reason.
I think it's a fear factor. I can't come up with a reason why. I've thought about this in my office by myself, thinking about this, like, were they testing our response time to see if and then they went to a different school? That's my fear. We send everybody to this side of the county, and then the bad guys go to this side of the county. Was that a test? But it happened in multiple counties, so no, that wasn't the test in this case. I mean, people have done that, call a bank alarm in here, and they go rob the bank, 20 miles away. I mean, because everybody cops going that way.
Now, great. You just gave the bad guys a whole bunch of, I don't think bad guys watch the show, but if they were, you just gave them here's a tip.
And so, yeah, I mean, so it can go 10 different directions. In this case, I don't know except fear. Or, I don't know, maybe the guy trying to raise awareness and school shootings. I don't know what the guy did, but he basically went down the map based on the times and started in Superior, and he went right down, and he hit, Spooners was going on at the exact same time Rice Lakes was, and then Chippewa Falls got one, and they weren't even in school. So he didn't. They got one.
Clearly, they weren't from the area. You're calling in a school shooting on the week that the kids are off at school. So, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I don't get it. I don't know the outcome.
Yeah, but again, the traumatization of the kids. Now, as we all know, kids are resilient. They can handle things better than probably we adults can. But the fact that this could potentially traumatize some kids.
It will.
That I don't like, and I don't know what the penalty is for this. They'll probably get a signature bond. Don't worry.
Caught.
Just don't.
This guy got a signature bond. Oh, I'd be like, good luck, buddy.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, we're not making fun of it, but as on our show, we have to have levity, or I freak out.
We have to laugh at some of this stuff because it's too serious, and we have to think about our kids. Adam's right. We shouldn't put locks on our doors. We're just going to wait for the next one to happen. Our legislatures have to do something. They have to do something now. They have to put everybody in a room and don't leave. But we've always said that. They shouldn't. They should always be in session. They should be in session today, talking about this right now today, and not waiting for the next time to say, oh, we're not in session, so we can't talk about that.
Yeah, right. Which, as we and I both know, that seems to be more often than they are in session. So,
right.
I'm going to bring that up to Romaine on Thursday. Poor Romaine, he's going to get stuck with all these questions for everybody, but that's what you get.
To Brian's point, and then they should be, to Brian's point, to Adam's point, they should be in session today talking about this, and let's solve it. If we really care about our kids, let's solve it. I don't have the answer. I think I have some things. We're working with a couple of superintendents on some ideas. I don't know if that work or not. I don't want it to be a feel-good thing. I want it to be the reason why we do something. It can't be feel-good because that's just, I want it to make impact. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can just say, hey, talk to your kids about alcohol, and maybe.
And that's okay, right? Little things make a big difference. So all these little things can help. Maybe there isn't just a blanket, here's how you do it. I think if there was, somebody would have already figured it out by now. I don't know, we got 300 million people in this country. Somebody would have said, what we should do. I don't know exactly what it was. I got to ask you something. When you were, so we're talking about the impacts, teachers and adults and community and parents and certainly the kids. When you get this call, you said you were in a meeting, you get in your squad and you're taking off, so you're in Barron, so right, so how far is that? Normally, 10 minutes?
9 miles.
Okay.
10 minutes.
So you probably got there a little faster.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. What was going through your mind at that point, or were you so focused on, because sometimes, work, I'm in work mode. I remember Dad, when he was a sheriff, I know when Dad's in work mode, I just stay away. Like, there's no emotion there. There's nothing. I'm so focused on what's going on, where's everybody, how's the scene, how do we block this up? It's just total that. Were you thinking at all? Well, tell us, what were you thinking on your way there? Because at that point, you didn't know what was going on.
First of all, I was thinking I left my cell phone on my desk, so that really irritated me because I couldn't call people.
Oh,
I didn't want to take the radio because I wanted to hear the all clear. So I couldn't call and say, call the SWAT team. I was going through my head, when do I activate our SWAT team? We haven't been called off yet, so is there someone in that school for real? Normally people call us back. I mean, we haven't even got into parents' response yet because parents beat us to the scene because kids called them on their cell phone and parents drove to school, which causes another issue for that.
Yeah, but can you blame them?
No, not at all. Don't blame them at all. I don't.
Right.
It's just that they're going to get in our way. And if this is the real deal, I mean, our fire and EMS response was great. Our dispatchers did a good job. We had it all. We would have blocked the road off if it was the real deal, and parents wouldn't have been able to get there. We would have a reunification area. There's a lot of things that go into play. And so I'm thinking about all of those things. Do I got enough ambulances, fire departments? What are we really going to do if this is the real deal?
Do I have enough ammunition?
Yeah, right.
Take
I
down
knew
a
I had
bag.
enough. I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried about our cops. I truly believe in our cop response to that. We were ready. I mean, I know no one likes to think about it, but it was a heck of a training. I mean, it was about as real as it gets without it being real. It was a great response. And I know people will criticize the response, that it was too much. We should have determined.
They're idiots. We don't care about them. They're idiots.
It was great. I've talked to some parents about it one-on-one and said basically what I just said here. And they're like, yeah, I get it. None of us want our kids going through trauma.
No.
But then stop. We got to talk to our kids about alcohol before they go drinking. So proms aren't trauma. Then our graduations aren't trauma. And we've got to be smarter with drugs and alcohol and fentanyl. And we can go on. And I know I'm on my soapbox right now, but I get to be because this
Good for
is
you.
my show. And we've got to make a difference. And I really appreciate Brian and Adams and everybody's responses here because it's motivated me. We need to have some of that. We need to. It's going to motivate Romaine. I know Romaine. It's going to motivate him to do something. We need to do something. What that is, I know if we had that answer, we'd have figured it out. And there's a lot smarter people working on this than me, but my job is the 44,000 people in Barron County. And if I do something different and it works, great. If they want to copy it, so be it. But I can't sit around and wait for that. So we're working with our superintendents. We're working on better plans. We're working on a response plan. We work on training. We work on equipment. Those are all key things to build us for the future. So when we have an incident, we're ready for it. I truly believe in our staff. We're ready to go. So
Yeah.
We could go on and on for days on this topic.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know we've already gone way past our time, but you know what? This is, I think this stuff is important. So I appreciate you staying on with us a little bit longer here, Fitzy. So was there any point that, you're reading which one are you reading?
I'm reading Adam's last one. So
Sure. Oh, it's too long. So long, Adam. So
I know.
long. We need to work together to real life-saving. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, there was Brian had put in 73rd Angie Sapek stated position that red flag laws don't work in fields. And there's a lot of good arguments to be made that they don't work, and there's arguments to be made that they do. I mean, more guns, and yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That would be a question for her. There is an argument to be made that typically, if someone has a gun, you're probably not going to mess with them as much. So there is an argument to that. But then if nobody had guns, then probably wouldn't have any shooting. So that's just it. I wish they were so obvious of an answer to what to do, but there just kind of isn't.
Yeah. And Adam's right. He said, you guys need to talk about this every day. We do. We have. And
Every Tuesday.
Not this, but
Not
I
this
know what
time.
Adam, we need to do this. But no, I've had some really good, and it really, when it hits closer to home, you do talk about it more. No one ever thinks bad things going to happen in Barron County.
Right.
We've shocked the world and showed them that bad stuff's happened in small towns, USA. So you're right. Sometimes we don't think we need to do some of these things, and I think, and as more bad things happen in the world, I think we follow them. I follow all of our active shooters, or try to follow them, and try to get real results and try to figure out what really happened, not from just the media, but from after action reports, things like that. We try to do all of that. We go to trainings on some of this stuff, but
Adam, stop it, Adam.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm not putting that on the screen, Adam. Sorry. I think I saw there's a headline this morning. I didn't click on it, but I think I saw, I don't know what news site it was on, that we've had more active shooters this year than days this year.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I can't remember what actually categorizes a mass shooting. I don't remember. Is it two more? I don't remember. But yeah, clearly there's an issue. I still think it's a mental health issue. And if you peel that layer back, I still think it goes back to homes. It starts there. People with these mental health issues, I think sometimes we just have those. But man, it doesn't have to be mom and dad. It just needs to be to these parents, stepdad and stepmom, whomever. But love and care for your child and teach them right and wrong and make them feel like they're worthy and that they're safe and they're great. And I'm just saying, it literally does. Now, unfortunately, law enforcement, you can't do anything about that. But it starts there, man. Your kids in your home. That's where it starts.
But I can, and I think I have as sheriff, and I think that's where this show is partly, some of the other outreach we do. I think we can continue to talk about this. I don't think we should shy away from talking about this.
Agreed.
I don't think we will. I mean, everybody knows me. I won't be afraid to not talk.
Nor will I. And
Yeah,
I'll say the things that you can't say, like calling people idiots.
Yeah. So,
Just saying.
We love our jobs. We'll continue to do it. We care about the community. And, we're going to try some different things. None of us are perfect. I love the input I had here today. You've motivated
thanks,
me,
everyone.
Ideas, and every person's can add to that solution. So if we all do this together, we'll be fine. So I appreciate it.
All right, forecast. Rain and snow Thursday through Friday night. The whole area can see 2 to 4 inches. What?
Yeah.
Dang
I don't
it,
like
Dirk.
Dirk.
I'm really starting to not like Dirk. No
Me
kidding.
too.
Is there a ban
It
button
just
on
needs
here?
to be 80, honey.
Oy.
Oh, what? But he said Sunday
Oh,
might
shoot.
be 50.
I just saw that now, too. Something about great news. We may see our first. What? All right, so all that snow will be gone.
Okay. We like you again now, Dirk.
Okay, you can keep commenting. All right. Yes, and go vote. Absolutely. Seriously,
vote.
even if it's not about the Supreme Court, which you probably should. And next week, we'll have our election predictions sure to go wrong.
That's right.
I don't know. Right now, like 5 weeks ago, I would say Janet's going to win by a lot. 2 weeks ago, I would say she'll win, but 3 to 4 points, like 52 to 48%. Now, I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see in a week from now where this is going to end up. So it's getting to the point. I think it's going to be a toss-up at the way that this is going.
We're going to have hate mail, not on the show, but in our mailboxes for the next week. I mean, we're going to get ads after ads about this person sucks, and you suck, and you suck.
Oh, I know it. Oh, yeah.
Everybody's really happy to get their mail this week. And
I'll keep getting, tweets like this. Dryden is anti-women. Probably can't even get a first date. Fantastic. All right, what do you have coming up this week? And again, thank you so much, Fitzy. No kidding. I know you come on to do these shows, and you find them important, and I do as well, so thank you. But also, we're going way over our time. The fact that you stayed on and to talk about this, thank you so very much for doing that.
Yeah, we've got some meetings that we're going to talk about this tomorrow on the Amber Gonsky show on the radio, talk about this exact topic. We're going to a law enforcement class this afternoon to talk about, why we need more people to be cops. We're going to work on our celebrity golf this week. I got a library meeting on Saturday. So just a lot of little things, and hopefully these little things will make a big difference. That's what we'll do.
That is kind of the idea. That is our mantra. And it really does, man. Little things do make a big difference, like going out and voting for cash bail reform.
That's right. Go vote, yes.
100% agree. I have got, again, Romaine Quinn coming up on Thursday. And I think, this week, right. I think I should probably do a story on it. I think there's going to be there's a new chief of police in Spooner. Or there's going
really?
Yeah, Chief Crispin, I think, is retiring. I think it's this week, Thursday or something, he's retiring. So I should probably do a show. Oh, shoot. You know what? We should have Mike Cronenberg, the new chief, who's going to be the new chief at the end of this week. We should probably have him on for a show. We can corrupt him right away, right when he gets in.
A week or two to get settled in.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, man, for coming on and talking about all this and staying late. I appreciate it. For Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business has provided quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. So give Brian a call today, 715-520-2271. Fitzy and I will be back next week. Well, we'll do our election predictions sure to go wrong. Make sure you get out and vote and let us know that you voted during the show next week. Vote before and then tell us that you voted. So until then, thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed